earlier this year, there was a guy who was arrested who was meant to be a member of this group who murdered two members of his family. That seems to have really sparked off kind of white fears that like the group might turn violent, might start committing ritual killings as well as suicides. This group, Aliyah, as I believe it's pronounced, they are a Iraqi religious sect. They're often known kind of colloquially in Iraq as the Qurban Group, and Qurban obviously is the Arabic word for sacrifice. Obviously, there's not a kind of huge amount of sort of official information about them, but as far as it's understood, they've been around since the 2020s, perhaps around 2020 they formed, and they are a religious sect who follow a kind of offshoot of Shia Islam. They basically venerate Ali, the son-in-law of the Prophet Muhammad. Their particular twist on it, as far as I understand, is that they practice a form of lottery-based suicide, and they believe basically that one should sacrifice oneself to Ali as a sort of form of gaining transcendence and of oneness with the divine. This group has sort of grown over the last few years and have become more and more well known as there have been more and more reports of these kind of ritual suicides taking place. And they've been obviously they've been denounced by the kind of leading sort of religious authorities in Iraq. And now the government has launched a crackdown on them, I suppose for obvious reasons, denounced them as a deviant ideology akin to the Islamic State group. They're not hugely covert about their existence. I mean, they released videos online over the years, and they hold kind of big sort of public gatherings in which they play a lot of kind of electronic music. Like they make a kind of a mix between kind of, I don't know, kind of religious ceremonies and a club rave or something like that. So at which they sort of chant about Ali being God and this sort of thing. But obviously now they're obviously having to be a bit more covert because they're being cracked down upon. And as far as I understand it, there are sort of splinters within the group now as well, with some people basically denouncing the practice of ritual suicide. In terms of the recruitment, I mean, as I said, they had quite a sort of prominent sort of public and online sort of presence. As I said, there are quite a lot of these kind of religious groups in Iraq and in other parts of the region, I suppose, as well, who do very well among kind of young men with little prospect for the future. I mean, obviously Iraq has got a very, very young population, high levels of unemployment, high levels of corruption and instability, and we have a lot of kind of younger people who simply don't see any future. They don't have prospects, and groups like this offer a certain sense of community. They offer and obviously to some extent they offer a way out of a hopeless situation, certainly in terms of if we're talking about things like taking your own life. So it's playing upon a kind of wide sense of despair among many younger Iraqis. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not like they're carrying out these suicides for any kind of political reason, or at least not as far as I'm aware. I mean, as far as I understand, it is a kind of purely sort of theological thing. So it's not as though they're sort of targeting the Iraqi government or complain or openly objecting to the situation in the country through this stuff. Even if, as I said, I believe that is probably somewhere at the root of the phenomenon, but it's not like a political protest. it's a religious practice. So. As far as I understand it, based on police reports, the general kind of process is that people like gather at a house and literally draw lots. I mean, one of the earliest cases, which was linked to the group in 2021, which has sort of retroactively sort of been associated with it, like began with a young man like hanging himself in a Hassaniya, the kind of group buildings used for kind of Shia religious practices and things like that, and that's generally been, that's been one sort of way that the deaths have occurred, according to local media reports. Tends to be in a kind of place of religious significance. I mean, the other incident, which has kind of sparked the crackdown more than anything else was basically. Earlier this year, there was a guy who was arrested, who was meant to be a member of this group, who murdered 2 members of his family, which was supposedly he did as part of the kind of sacrificial thing, which is like a break. Well, it seems to be a break with the kind of previous practice where it seemed to be voluntary sort of sacrifice, and that seems to have really sparked off kind of white fears that like the group might turn violent, might start committing ritual killings as well as suicides. And I mean, the members of the group who've been aware of this have tried to deny it, but obviously this has kind of sparked a real kind of crackdown, And again, it's sort of getting more comparisons with the Islamic State group again, as a result. By the kind of Iraqi media and by the Iraqi security services, who are like now starting to get worried that it could lead to some kind of more general attacks or things like that. But as I said, the group deny that this is like common practice. But that does seem to be the thing which has sparked the crackdown in particular.
Thank you for watching the full video. आप में से बहुत से ऐसे लोग हैं जिन्होंने शायद हमारा YouTube channel subscribe नहीं किया. So if you want to support independent journalism and watch more meaningful content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel.